Good morning. Wildfire haze is back. This is the first day out for the hens. They're a little unsure. They've definitely got the idea. Howdy, porkers. Things have gotten a bit muddy with all this rain. First thing I want to do today is get my grill going because I'm going to smoke something low and slow all day long. This is something I would not normally put on the smoker. This is a rib roast. So if you take the bone off of this, if you cut it into steaks, it's ribeye. If you leave the bone in, it's rib steaks. And if you leave it like this, it's a standing rib roast, made into prime rib, usually slow roasted. This is from our old cow Carrie that we had slaughtered last winter. She was 15, and what I find in general with these rib roasts is you've got a shell on the outside here. You can see the fat line right here, and the shell tends to be tougher, and then on this end, as you get into the chuck going forward on the cow, you'll actually get a line of like cartilage in here as it's going into the chuck, and this stuff is really tough on an old cow. This center part right here remains fairly tender. I've tried cooking this in the sous vide for a couple days. I have tried slow roasting it in the oven, but it still stays tough. It's funny with old cows. The sirloins on her are just as tender as can be, but this deserves a slow cook. So I'm going to try it. Yuck. It's not going to be medium rare like I usually like them, but hopefully it'll be more tender. Is that all? Is that it? I guess not. A skeleton walks into a bar and says, "I'll have one beer and a mop."
I don't think Patty liked that.
We are going to make the cattle very happy today. Well, as happy as they can ever be, I guess. We have to run a temporary fence because our fencing situation is still leaky around the barn. It's smoky today. Having no experience with smokiness in my entire life before this year, I'm surprised it doesn't smell as much like wood smoke as I think it should. It smells different.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know what it smells like. Weird.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What we did here is seal off this open area of the winter pasture because of the new barn addition. Just ran a fence over to the grove so that we can get the cattle out into this field. Now we can put up the true temporary fence, the fence that we used to move every day back in the old days when we were strip grazing, mob grazing. But we need to do some repair work first. These temporary posts are just steel rebar with these screw-on insulators. Not the best, Not the worst. Good enough for me. Looks like the chickens are doing all right out there. They're investigating the pasture. And the broilers are taking their snooze. But this field, this is where the cattle are going, and it is nice stuff. Nicest yet this year, I think. Driving a post while the cows gently weep. George Harrison would be proud. One, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15. With all the rain we've had, these are just sliding right in the ground. Except when they hit a rock. Now we gotta walk back up and get the poly rope. Here we go. This is Premier 1 poly rope, and it is good stuff. I think it's got 3 different kinds of conductors in it. Much hotter than the cheapy stuff that you get at the tractor supply stores. Yep, I need to go along the fence lines with the sickle bar mower pretty soon here when we get a chance. Right here. These connectors get multiple wraps to make sure they have good contact with the conductors in the poly rope. Lock the reel and the bottom wire. Clip them both onto the perimeter fence. How's the meat? Oh, it's got that nice golden color to it. I like. With all this rain, everything's growing like crazy out here. Grass, trees, leaves, weeds, everything. Looks like you guys are just standing around waiting for me. Would that be correct? You're just standing around waiting for me? I think they know what I'm up to. They always do. All right, you monsters. Well, come on, let's go. They're making a stampede out. They sure are excited. They're not just settling down and eating like they normally would. They're kind of all over the place. Look at this stuff. Beautiful. What are you doing back there, little one? Peeking out. This is what cattle will do. They go into this tall area of grass here and they'll work it all down. Well, what's with the extracurricular activities, guys? I think Patty's going to win that battle. This is pretty much what I consider prime pasture. We hayed this field off, I think it was just a month ago, 4 weeks ago, and it came up here, and the alfalfa's starting to go to seed, but everything else is in that tender, what I think of as a high protein growing state, especially with a lot of the alfalfa really standing out and the clover standing out. This is just as good as it gets. The cows can't complain that they could go someplace else and get better grass, because that doesn't happen on this farm anyway. They're all going to explore the space. They got to find the boundaries of all this good stuff. They will usually, when you let them into a new pasture, they'll be along the edges to begin with. Rusty, you are a nice looking animal. We have 6 calves right now and 1 more expected, hopefully soon. The calves tend to hang together, you'll see. They're a little mixed up now, but they'll hang together with each other. And then sometimes, it's the coolest thing I think, one mama cow will stay with the calves as a nanny, say when the calves are resting, laying down. Well, the other cattle are off eating someplace. It almost always happens. There's one mama cow and then all the calves are around her. There really are a lot more complicated dynamics to a herd and within and among the herd than you would guess. I mean, they're just cows, right? They've got an order that's very important. You may have noticed this lady in other videos. She's got a horn she was dehorned, but it's grown in anyway and it's turned around. It's not bothering her yet. But she's going to the butcher this fall. She's a cull cow, and we're bringing in one of the nicer looking heifers to replace her. You eat up. Look at all that alfalfa. You eat up. The reason she's getting culled has nothing to do with the horn. It's that we breed for size a lot because we're raising Dexters for beef. And she didn't grow out like we expected her to. She just never had the size. So we want that genetic trait of the larger end of Dexter size to be passed on to our calves, so we're looking for larger moms. Hey, all you little ones. But you can't tell that I like you. I always feel like David Attenborough out here. I guess this is the next job today. As part of the barn project, we just wanted to get this cleaned up back here. The dead trees gotta go, gotta be cut. Some old cinder blocks need to go. And we got a bunch of dead trees to cut down. Test, test, test. Is this camera still working? And then this walnut here, it's too close to the barn. Look at Hilarie's shirt. That's the truth. International muscle. Trees are all down. Hilarie's busy carrying a leaf to the bulls, so you can see poking their nose up out there. We're gonna leave these on the ground and let the leaves fall off. They're a lot easier to handle and limb when the leaves are gone. What's going on in here, bulls? Hey, Orden. You guys were wondering what's going on, weren't you? Hi, Titus.
Hi, Mr. Titus.
You'd like to come out, just not yet. You can't come out yet. I can't give you a back rub over this gate. I can't do it. Hilarie and I had to quit working outside this afternoon because the haze has just been getting worse throughout the day, and it does take a toll on your lungs. This video's been a little quieter, I think, than most. And I get into these places where, I'm a philosopher at heart, more than a farmer, certainly more than a comedian, and I take things very seriously. When I was an architect in the last 5 years or so of my career, that was my job, developing philosophy that centered on architecture, but I viewed it more as life. What's important, what's meaningful, what's important about place, time, those things. They really getting to the heart of the matter. And some days like today, I work and I think about those things. And today I happen to be thinking about something I cover a lot of philosophy in the book I wrote, which I know a lot of you have read. Something I called centricity in the book, and I think about it. Hilarie and I are a great complement. As a pair running a farm, I just about think we're the perfect pair because we complement each other. We're not the same. Hilarie is a day-to-day person, and I'm getting to centricity here. Centricity is the distance of view that you're most comfortable with. Hilarie's comfortable with the day-to-day on the farm, thinking about what's coming next, the list of jobs that need to be done, which is extremely important on a farm. You got to keep track of all that stuff. And I do, too, but I prefer to take the aerial view. It's similar, the analogy is a person on the ground trying to see as far as they can, and when you're standing on the ground, especially if you're in a place like forest, you can't see very far. That's being what I would call nearsighted, not in a bad way, but just not being able to see far. And then there's being farsighted, which means you may be high up in the air, is the analogy, and you can see a long ways, and you're looking to the horizon to see the bigger picture, the landscape, what's coming, what could be. And I like inhabiting that area. And I think that that area is underappreciated in this day and age because we're so focused on exigencies. What has to happen now? What has to be done today? It's right in our face. We're trying to take care of it. We're trying to move on to the next thing. And the big view suffers. And I think that's a shame. And it's something I would like people to think about more. The big view. Who am I? Where am I going? Why am I doing this? Do I want to do this the rest of my life? What is society turning into? Do I want it to be that way? What changes would it take to make it the way I think it should be? Now, this view, I think, is not respected as much as it should be today. People actually have disdain for dreamers and a real affection for people who get it done, who get the task done, who are action-oriented. And I think that's a shame because the two are needed in complement. Just the way that Hilarie and I complement each other on the farm, in marriage, raising kids, living life together. I think we need both those things. So I would like to challenge everybody to think about that higher view and to give it the credence that it deserves. Now on to dinner. I took this off about a half an hour ago to let it stand. Let the juices distribute. Now I'm going to do a little surgery on it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this cap off of it at this cartilage piece, or whatever it is. Some kind of real hard, chewy stuff. I think it's cartilage. And then I'm going to cut the bone out here because the kids don't like dealing with the bone. And that way I can get it all to myself. And that leaves us what I would call the center. And so we can slice that into, like steaks. I gotta be honest, I didn't have high hopes for this because it being an old cow, and grass-finished beef is just tougher. It needs to be handled with kid gloves. You just can't whip it on the grill and cook the snot out of it, or you're gonna have a real tough steak. So lots of challenges here. It's got that yellow fat, which our beef always have. I always call that grass fat because I believe from the beta carotene in the grass that they eat. I know that it comes in some breeds just as a function of the breed, but I like to call it grass fat. It definitely has a different flavor than grain fat. Let me get a piece here. The parts that I cut out are nice and tender. I'm going to take this in, share it with my family, with all the fixins. I know this video was a little different, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.